Hello, investors. This is Connor Bates, Associate Portfolio Manager with Revere Asset Management. Today is Friday, April 11th, 4:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Coming to you with tonight's Revere Roundup Daily Market Insight video. Market state, we're still in a harsh correction. And if we take a look at trend gauge over here, still the four red loafed arrows, although as we know how sporadic this market is, that could change at any moment. Market leader still red arrow. Starting to see some, like Don mentioned in the video last night, a lot of double bottom bases showing up and some pretty good action today. Short term, we're still trading below the 21 EMA, medium term below the 50 SMA, long term below the 200 SMA, and we actually got a death cross today. And what a death cross is when the 50-day gets below the 200-day moving average. And Todd on the team did an unbelievable segment on the podcast today showing some statistics and what previous death crosses looked like. So highly recommend checking out the podcast and seeing historically what some of these death crosses have led to. What happened today? Bulls build higher lows, and we closed back above the 8 EMA along with the 5 SMA. Two shorter term moving averages, but it's always a start, right? 21 over 21 list is still under construction. Final numbers, Big 8 up 1.62%, RG8 up about 2%, S&P up 1.81%, Equal 8 up 1.52%, the Qs up 1.84%, Equal 8 up 1.4%, Dow Jones Industrial Average up 1.57%, mid caps up 1.4%, Russell 2000 up 1.3%, 60/40 stock and bond up 0.97%, and GROTECTION up 0.33%. So nice to see some green for a change there. Let's get into the inter-asset correlation. Alrighty, let's move this. All right. Start with S&P 500. So as you can see, death cross right here. Like I said, refer to the podcast. Todd provided some great stats, but pretty objective. Still building higher lows. Kind of had the panic day here. Huge volume. VIX hit 60. Tons of breath signals were oversold. We reclaimed this 51.19 level, which was the August 5th low. And then obviously on the 90-day pause, had that huge rip into the 21-day, backfilled, held 50% of that range, and now back above the 8 EMA. And then another point of reference, 48.18. This was 2021 summer highs. Huge level there that we held as well. So some decent technical action there, although we're still below the 10, 20, 30, and 40-week moving average. So the trend is still down, especially below 200-day. That's starting to flatten out. But just talking for some of the silver linings, next week's going to be important, right? 21-day, 5,500 level, and then also the 50 and 200-day. So still lots of supply up here. But key line in the sand is Monday's low here. And as long as that holds, the market can build. But we are starting to kind of form this range down here. So see what way it resolves. RSP equal weight, similar thing, right? Just building off that Monday gap down panic. Rejected the 8 today. The Q, similar thing, starting to build higher lows back above the 8. Let's just take a look in the hourly chart here. You can see, big downtrend line here from the highs. That's where we rejected right there. So coming back in, but here building higher lows as well. So that's good to see. If this can break out, that'd be good. Take a look at the weekly again. This one held that 2021 highs also, but still don't really have the wind behind our backs below declining 10, 20, 30, and 40-week moving average, but staying open-minded here. Mag 7, similar look as the Qs. Dow Jones, similar look as well, back above the 8, still some overhead to work with. Mid cap, similar thing, not a whole lot to comment there. Russell 2000, again, this one got hit the hardest. See if this can hold this 1800 spot. ARC, see if we can hold those lows around 40. FFTY, similar look there is ARC. VIX, good to see this come down back below 40. And if the VIX is going to want to stay above in this 30 to 40 to 50 range, then we just need to get used to these 3-4% intraday swings on the S&P 500. That's the rule 16 that I've mentioned before. But if the VIX can start to come down, that would be a huge sign. And one thing with swing trading and position trading is volatility is not your friend. And this type of environment's great for short-term traders, day traders. That's not what we do at Revere. The best types of markets for swing and position trading is low volatility uptrends. And coincidentally, right when the S&P started to break down, the ATR of the S&P 500 was breaking out. So it's a really good signal. Once that ATR starts creeping back up, you could be getting into a volatile and much choppier market. And the ATR, the S&P right now is the highest in years, and it's staying elevated. So watch for the VIX to come down, watch for the ATR to volatility to dry up, and that could be a good sign. The dollar trying to put in hammer here around 100. Gold, just unbelievable move this continues to be. And when you talk about measured moves, this 20-year cup and handle breakout did not disappoint. Just monster move here. Short term, this is starting to get a little parabolic. Three upside gaps in a row into a 300 level. So, I think gold might need a cool off here. And if this pulls back, that could maybe be good for stocks. GDX gold stocks as well, starting to accelerate into that 50 level. Silver undercut and reclaim of the 200-day, still relative weakness versus gold. Bitcoin highlight today. This one's we're watching this one against this trend line from the highs here. This one really stood out today. Double bottom here off the 200-day, and this is one of the few asset classes that is still trading above a rising 40-week moving average. So longer term, the trend looks pretty good here on Bitcoin, and it almost nearly undercut this breakout base from around December of last year. So Bitcoin still looks pretty constructive, and this 50-day starting to flatten out. See if it can curl back up, but definitely Bitcoin's on the top of our watch list. Bonds again just continue to be weak. TLT, same thing, trying to put a reversal here today. Coincides with rates kind of rejecting the upper end of the range as well. We'll see some just huge moves in macro related products. A lot of stuff going on in the macro world right now. Alrighty, that's the interasset correlation. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape. Stochastics, all of them are quite oversold, starting to hook back up on the daily and weekly. That could be that could throw some wind behind the market's back. Percent of stocks by the 5-day moving average already back up to 85. On Tuesday, I did a huge Twitter thread on this, which I actually got featured in Market Watch, which was really cool to see. I've been posting stuff on Twitter for years now, put in a lot of time to posting my commentary on there. So it's pretty cool to get recognized. We put that article on the show notes in the podcast if any of you guys want to check it out. But I was talking about the percent of stocks by the 5-day hit like 0.99, which is extremely oversold, and now all the way back up into 85. Let's see. We got PPI, not a whole lot to comment on that there today. And then partly that fueled some of the rally today was there was a headline that came out that said Federal Reserve absolutely ready to stabilize the market if needed. And the market popped on that. Good to instill some confidence into the market. Today's keys, S&P and the Qs versus the 5 and the 8 EMA. Green light there, and we held that 4.9 midpoint, so good action there. Going into Monday, we're watching the same things. Any pullback, want to see that 5 SMA and 8 EMA hold along with the 4.9 midpoint. We could see a fall through day next week, so that's definitely on the top of our minds, along with what's the leadership if we get that fall through day, and then next level for the S&P is that 21 EMA. Day count up 1 day above the 8, 13 days below the 21. Sectors wise, Bitcoin, metals and miners, oil, gold, aerospace and defense, cyber, all strong today. And then weakness, regional banks, natural gas, banks, retail. Already getting back into earnings season. Banks kicked it off today. We had, BlackRock, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Pretty muted responses there today. Not huge green nor not huge red. Um, Protection today, no trade, still holding that SPLG position, and RVAB 0.19, balance at risk minus 0.67%. Bottom line, is the market setting up for a fall through day next week? That is what we're going to be watching for, and we'll see. It is also a short week next week. Markets close on Friday. Alrighty, let's get into some charts of interest. So let's see. Don talked about a lot of the double bottom bases yesterday, and I just kind of got a lot of those on the list, called this stocks in play. So let's take a look. I talked about Bitcoin, and MSTR is looking really good. This one's got a huge downtrend line here from the highs, put in a double bottom base here off the 200-day moving average, back above the 50-day. This is looking one of the better looking charts in the market. It needs Bitcoin to cooperate, but this one's looking pretty explosive if this can crack back above. And we know how MSTR moves. It's quite a volatile stock. And one thing that I thought was interesting, we traded a lot of MSTR last year, was a good trade. And you see this double bottom base off the 200-day and when it broke this downtrend line. So, and it led to that huge move all the way into 543. So kind of seeing something similar here, precedent to keep an eye on, but although largely depends on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin can continue, but it's a good sign that that's one of the few asset classes that held the rising 40-week moving average. Robinhood, this is another one, double bottom base here off the 200-day, and this one trades in line with Bitcoin as well, coming against downtrend line. You have the declining 50-day here as well, but this one was strong today, up 8%. Geo, this is another private prisons play coming against this downtrend line. All these moving averages quite coiled. PayToss, aerospace and defense sector was strong today. Again, 35.66 is that previous high pivot, relative strength line, new highs before price. Duolingo, again, setting up in this kind of double bottom base here. See if this can get above this range and 50-day. NVIDIA, just watching this one here, obviously is below the 200-day, but this one, as long as this one can hold 100, this one can bounce back up. That would be good for the market and semiconductors. Axon, this one went quiet for a while after a couple harsh breaks off the highs, putting in a double bottom here off the 200-day. So we'll see if this one can get into gear. CrowdStrike definitely looks like a potential leader if the market starts to turn. Some decent cybersecurity stocks and very similar setup. Talk about setup theme a lot. And, when you just look at hundreds to thousands of charts every day, you start to see similar patterns. And that similar pattern right now is the double bottom base. Any name that held the 200-day moving average in this pullback definitely could lead in the next run. Doximity's lacking relative strength, honestly not my favorite, but holding the 200-day. SE bounced off the 200-day, kind of lacking RS as well. Toast, this one, nice little double bottom base here, back above the 200-day. See if we can break this down trend line. Celsius, this is a kind of a different setup. Stage one base back above the 200-day moving average. This one can really go when it wants to go. You can see some monster runs in 2020 and then even had some bursts of some nice runs as well in 2023. So maybe this one wants to go on another run and lead. TGTX, kind of downtrend line off the 50-day setup. This one is held up great compared to most stocks in the market. Stochastic starting to hook back up down here. GLD just showing gold stocks have just been nonstop. You look at some of the individual ones, right? IAG, new highs, HMY, new highs. Starting to look a little bit parabolic, but nevertheless super strong. Carvana, again, similar setup here. See if it can hold 200 and take out this downtrend line. RBRK. Now, Pattern Rec recognizes this one, and this is another cybersecurity name, new merchandise, recent IPO from back here. This one's a nice young name, so definitely on the top of the radar as well. Dutch Bros, again, off the 200-day. This one looks decent. Okta, another cybersecurity name. We really like this one back here. Came down with the market. As expected, every stock pretty much did, but see if this can build back up. Palantir, another one, arguably has, this is the top, one of I had to give three names I like the most, Palantir's up there for number one, just due to the fact that this one never even touched the 200-day moving average. This has got a really tight day today, and see if this one can crack the 50-day. And this is just a pure risk on growth stock as well. Tesla, just watching this one as long as it can hold this 217, and then Costco non-growth, but held these lows here. See if we can get back above the 50-day moving average. So definitely starting to see a lot more stocks pop up on the scans, which is good to see. Whenever, not all fall through days are created equal, but the strongest fall through days occur under the 200-day moving average. So if we get a fall through day next week, the stocks on that list that I just showed, those would be the ones that we're focused on. And we'll see, you know, just because you get a fall through day is never a signal just to plunge in. You need to see indexes taking out key levels, stocks showing setups. So definitely an art, not a science. So, but that's on watch for next week. Still tons of overnight risk in this market, tons of volatility. No reason to be a hero. You'll know when the time is right, when the volatility starts to decrease, breakouts, a lot more stock setups, indexes above moving averages. So really just still taking it day by day in this tape. It's such a headline driven market. And that's why I tweeted something the other day, but I just said, we're trying to go into every trading day open-minded with a bear and bull case, just because how fast this market is, stuff is changing, and analyzing the news flow, what the Fed's saying, what the administration is saying, all that you have to take into account. So that's, I think, all I have for today. Definitely just a wild week to say the least. So I'm sure everyone's ready to get some rest this weekend. So that is going to wrap it. As always, like to hear from you. My email is connor@revereasset.com, or you can always reach out to Dan or Don at revereasset.com. You can find me on Twitter at Connor J Bates _, and then you can always give us a call at 855 Real Wealth, 855-732-5932. If you're ever interested in becoming a client, as always, please reach out. Hope you guys have an awesome weekend, and thanks for watching.